We've got a good one, though. Good episode or a good edition of Carving Up the Context this week because it involves a potential college football Hall of Fame head coach of the Clemson Tigers, a man by the name of Dabo Swinney. But before I get into it, it is time for Carving Up the Context. Give me my theme music. All right, and this week's edition, of Carving Up the Context, we've got a little kerfuffle. Is that the word to use? Maybe again, it was not a physical altercation, but it was a little bit of a back and forth, so to speak, between a caller on Dabo Swinney's weekly radio hit. Which, for the record, look, I'm a Vols fan, so Josh Heupel's my guy, head coach of the Tennessee Volunteers. I think these call-in shows are really dumb. I don't like them. I think if I were a head coach in college football, they'd be my least favorite thing to do. I'm like, guys, I got to recruit. I got to get game plans set up. I think these call-in shows are kind of useless at this point, especially now that we have social media. But they still do them. They still do them at Clemson, as they do a lot of places. But Dabo Swinney was doing his weekly radio hit. By the way, the Clemson Tigers, who were ranked pretty highly to start the season, are now 4-4 and could potentially miss a bowl game if you look at their upcoming schedule. Probably will barely survive just to get in a bowl game. But Dabo Swinney was doing his weekly radio hit, and somebody called into his show. And let's just say that he wasn't terribly high on the job that Dabo Swinney was doing. So he was saying, hey, coach, when you're making, I think it's $14 million a year or something like that, when you're making X amount of money a year, all these millions of dollars, we expect you to do better. Which, I mean, at least he brought that same energy to Dabo that he would on Twitter or his Reddit boards. But Dabo responded with this, quote, "You're part of the problem. The appreciation, the expectation is greater than the appreciation. That's the problem. We've won 12 10-plus seasons in a row. That's happened 3 times in 150 years. Clemson ain't sniffed a national championship for 35 years. We've won 2 in 7 years. And then there's only two other teams that can say that, Georgia and Alabama. Is this a bad year? Yeah, and it's my responsibility. Take 100% responsibility for it. But this bull crap you're thinking, all these narratives you read, listen, man, you can have your opinion all you want. You can apply for the job, and good luck to you." So obviously isn't terribly pleased. And I understand the reaction to somebody kind of calling in, and obviously we assume does not have the football intellect of a Dabo Swinney. Dabo Swinney is a historically great coach. But I've talked about this in the past, but today feels like a good time to sort of elaborate on this on Carving Up the Context. Is that, man, we view Dabo in the same ilk as a Saban, as a Kirby Smart in Georgia. We view him in the same stratosphere as we do with other coaches of the past who have had a lot of success. And I mean, I think Ryan Day is much better than people give him credit for, but that's another discussion for another show. Lincoln Riley, well, he can't coach defense or to save his life or should fire Alex Grinch, really. But Lincoln Riley's been a successful coach. Like, we kind of view Dabo in that ilk. And I'm not saying necessarily now that we shouldn't. What I am saying is that unless he evolves, and thus far there's no evidence to say that he will, Dabo appears to be the typical person who takes on a job and is perfect for the time that they take it. You know, if 30, 40 years ago, somebody took a job that did not require any sort of computer work whatsoever, like they weren't good with computers, they needed to take the job 3-4 decades ago. Well, that's not a problem. The internet, the internet has only existed really for the last 3 decades. So the 80s, there's no internet. Computers they're there, but they're not the focal point of society and of everyday work that we know today. It's not the same. But if you're today, and if you're hired today and you're not good at all with computers, that's a little bit of a problem because virtually everything we do is on computers. I mean, I'm a college student, folks. I cannot tell you. I actually had an in-person, or not an in-person quiz, but a quiz using a pencil and paper. Probably had 10 of those. Probably count that in my hand the number of times I've done that. So you get the point. That Dabo took on the job at Clemson when great recruiting and smart coaching was what got you through. Not the case today. First of all, Dabo's brought in a lot of assistants who are yes men. Given the success Dabo Swinney has had, given the money that he makes, He has power that most coaches don't have. And I understand that. With great power comes great responsibility. And Dabo, as he mentioned, has won 2 national championships with the Clemson Tigers and appeared in another 2 aside from that. But when there's no Deshaun Watson and there's no Trevor Lawrence in particular, you're going to have to go out and not only recruit that potentially great quarterback, but you may have to get a little uncomfortable and get off your high horse a little bit and be active in the transfer portal. And you may also have to fully embrace NIL, which is really interesting because Dabo Swinney, years ago, and this was funny to me, Dabo Swinney said, let me pull this up, make sure I'm getting this correct. 4 years ago, said that, or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that, said that he would retire, he would quit college football if players got paid, which is funny considering he's in the midst of a $93 million contract and he has to rely on those great players. He's got to coach them, sure, but he's got to rely on these players to be successful for him. And now he says, we try to teach our guys, use football to create the opportunities, take advantage of the platform and the brand and the marketing you have available to you, which, again, some of that is sort of, I have to say this, and some of it is, I'm still not really going to go all in on it. He refuses to embrace NIL. He refuses to use the transfer portal. I mean, folks, look, Colorado is not the story today that they were week 1 when they upset TCU, who turned out not to be very good, but still Colorado is going places with Deion Sanders. Colorado won 1 game last year. And you know what Deion said? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, came in and said, okay, I'm going to have a lot of reinforcements coming in from Jackson State, in particular, my son, Shador Sanders, my other son, Shiloh Sanders, and the best player in our team, Travis Hunter. Those guys going to come in, and they're going to take your jobs. Some of the guys from Jackson State, some of these guys from other colleges, they're going to take your jobs. Had to step on some toes, had to make people uncomfortable. Yeah, Colorado, I still believe this, probably going to make a bowl game this year, and by next season, once they get their offensive line right, look out, Big 12. They could be a serious factor. Dabo Swinney, 4-4. By the way, in a very weak conference. I mean, the class of that conference is Florida State. They could potentially make the college football playoff, sure. But then it's Duke. Duke, who has a tremendous quarterback, but that's really what they rely upon overwhelmingly is Riley Leonard. If you look at the rest of the ACC, I mean, Wake Forest, Syracuse, Boston College, North Carolina, I really like their quarterback and their head coach, not their personnel in general. Louisville's fine. We don't really take them seriously. The inability to embrace the modern times is what could hold you back. Again, the world has changed. The world of college football has changed. I mean, 3 years ago, I was one of the people arguing for NIL. I was one of the people arguing for players to get paid. I certainly was not alone in that fight, but it was the upper sort of management, so to speak, or the voices that truly mattered in college football would have never even thought about. Matter of fact, would have pushed against players getting paid. But once the Supreme Court legalized it, once Governor Newsom in California allowed college athletes to get paid there, and once the NIL started to gain traction and players started to say, you know what, I am going to capitalize now that it's been deemed legal by the Supreme Court. I am going to capitalize on the opportunity to profit off of what I'm doing on the field. All of a sudden, people kind of had to change their tune. Whether they wanted to or not, they kind of had to change their tune. By the way, this could hurt Kirby Smart in Georgia. Yes, Georgia is the first, second, third best team in America today, and they very well could win a third straight national championship. But Kirby Smart's gotten off with recruiting overwhelmingly so. As time goes on, though, you may lose that wide receiver, that freshman wide receiver who wants to play to a rival school. There may be somebody else to replace him, and do you take the opportunity? And that's kind of where Dabo's at today. So, on this week's edition of Carving Up the Context, it's not just that Clemson has talent. Clemson doesn't have college football playoff talent the way they did in the past, but Clemson is not 4-4 in terms of their roster makeup. They've got some really good players there. I mean, for the record, DJ Uiagalelei. I can't believe I finally got his name right. I tried for so long. Got it right. He was at Clemson. Didn't fare so great there. Transfer to Oregon State. Oregon State's really good. And DJ, I'll just call him DJ, is having a tremendous season. You can't just get by on, this is how we do it. No, you gotta move on. You gotta pivot. Nick Saban. Nick Saban, when he took the Alabama job, at that time it was running game and defense wins championships. But around 2014, 2015, Nick Saban started to look around at Oregon, and he looked this way, and he saw Clemson sort of coming, and he looked over here, and he saw Oklahoma, and he was like, yeah, this defense and running game thing, it's not going to. This is not where the league's going. It's not where the sport is going. This is not where college football is going. I need to pivot. I need to change quickly. I need to go get Jalen Hurts. I need to go get Tua Tagovailoa. I need to go get Bryce Young. I need to go get a lot more wide receivers than I've been getting used to, as Alabama had a great running back, below average quarterback, and an awesome number one receiver. Saban's like, no, I need like 2 or 3. Yes, recruit defense. Yes, bring in a good, solid bell cow type back. But now the name of the game is offense. Now the name of the game is quarterbacks and wide receivers. And Saban, to his credit, and Saban could have said, nope, I've won a bunch of national championships. We're going to do it the Alabama way. Similar to how his best buddy, Bill Belichick, has done in New England. The Patriot way. No, it's the Tom Brady way, and we're seeing that. Saban said, you know what? No, I'm going to pivot. I'm going to change because I want to win at the end of the day. It's not going to be my way, the highway. It's going to be wherever the game is changing. I'm smart, got smart people around me. Let's adapt. Let's change. Dabo's done that. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.